Hi everyone. In this video, I'd like to answer a request that was made to me, which is how to best take notes and keep track of whatever code you're doing. And it's true that I should have explained that a little bit better because I thought that you guys would figure out how to use RStudio and would find out that there are different ways in which this can be used. So I'm going to briefly go through what I figured out. Even though I'm not using RStudio myself, I think that this is by far the best tool for keeping notes because it's easy to use and it's easy to install as well. So when you come to RStudio, it typically looks like that. This is an empty OR session, and this looks pretty much like what I do during the lessons. And this is the place where we say typically the code that we have here, set seed 1, 2, 3, and this is handier than the version that I use because, as you've seen, it proposes some way to continue the different commands that we're typing. And so here we, whenever we type something, then we get instantly the result of what we type. This is called an OR session, but that's not the only way to use RStudio. When you're working on a project and you're actually making, kind of brainstorming, trial, etc., this is one way to use it, but sometimes you want to keep track of what you do, and this is not the best way to use RStudio. So something that RStudio is good for compared to the normal OR is keeping track, because you can have OR scripts. So you see here, at least on my Mac, that's the way it looks. There is here the way to create new types of files. All these files are extremely interesting. I really advise that you look up what is a C++ file, what is Python script, etc. There's a lot to learn from, but the only one that matters for this course is OR script. When you do this, you could see that here the console, like the OR session, has been moved down, and we have access now to a new panel window here. And in that panel window, when I say, for example, OR norm, n equals 5, and I press enter, nothing happens. So this is a place where I can kind of write the commands, but they're not executed. So they're here for me to remember and to keep notes. So that's the ideal way for you to keep track of whatever you're doing. So you would say, for example, you would use some comments using that particular character here, the sharp character, that says whatever I'm writing after that character is ignored by the evaluation. I can say whatever I want. So this is tutorial 8, for example. And then I would say set seed 1, 2, 3. And in case, I'm worried that tomorrow I won't remember exactly what happens, I can use this comment function for my own benefit. I could say set the seed of the random generator. Of course, most of you by now remember that this is the function that does this. But for some things that are more complicated, writing comments for your own code is extremely useful. I myself find that very often when I write some code and I solve some problem, a few days later, just a couple of days, I would have forgotten the solution, and it would be even hard for me to read my own code. And I very much appreciate that sometimes I write these comments to explain to myself what I'm doing there. That allows me to much quicker and much faster go to the code and understand which bits do what. So do yourself a favor, whenever you're doing the tutorials, use this kind of functionality here in OR script. Use the comments for your own benefit so that you can keep track of which function does what. In case you forget, you're going to be very happy that you made some note of it. So that doesn't tell you how to evaluate it. Now you have these OR commands, but nothing has happened. So there's this really cool thing about RStudio is that you have this button here, run. So let me move that a little bit above. It doesn't want to. Well, no, it won't do it. So at least I can scroll down here. So if I press run here, you could see that it has moved the command that is highlighted here to the OR console, and there it's executed. Of course, nothing happens with the command set seed, it just happens internally. But if I now go to that command that produces something, when I press run, it actually runs it here, not there. So you have a strict separation between the code that you want to keep track of and the code that is executed. And you can execute only some parts of the code that you want to keep track of, which is kind of a nice way to quickly zoom through different parts of your code. One thing that is kind of nicer is that you can highlight 2 lines, and if you press run here, it runs them both. So like you can highlight the whole block of your code here, and then you can move the whole block to the evaluation window here, to the console, and both lines are moved. And what's nicer is that you don't even need to click the run button here. There is a shortcut to do this. So on Mac, this is Command Enter. So when you just do that, you see that both lines are directly moved to it. You can work really fast this way. I don't know the shortcut on Windows, but I'm sure there is one. So that's the way I recommend that you take notes for whatever you're doing here for BIOB20. And I kind of regret that I'm saying this so late. I thought that this was obvious, that this is a proper way to use RStudio, but the problem is that RStudio doesn't really make this apparent. It just shows the console, and when you save the content of the console, it's in the form of a history, which is not very friendly. What you have to save is the R script. So here we go. Here you have the the save button, and you have to save it somewhere. So you would of course always have your files organized in a nice way. So you'd have your work BIOB20 tutorial 8, and you'd say you need to name the file that be main script, whatever that is, and typically you would use the capital R extension here to say that this is an R script. So you save it, and now you can close it, go back to the console, and when you want to reopen a previous script to pick up where you left off, you press the open shortcut like I did now. You go to a file open. The script is there for opening. It shows you what's there. You can reopen it. That now regenerates that top window, and quickly you can pass the commands there down to your console, and they keep being evaluated like that. So that's, in my opinion, the easiest and the best way for you to keep track of everything. I recommend you do that. You got the 15 questions of the tutorial in a file, and you write the comments. Okay, here this is a very silly example because everybody remembers it by now, but it is really useful from one week to the other, especially because you have other courses going on, that you write down everything that happens, everything you understand in your code, because that's insane how fast we forget the functionality of one function or the other. So I hope that this is useful for some of you, and anyway, I hope that this helps. Good luck with the tutorial, and see you soon.